It seems like my last talks have built on one another to get me to the thought that we are always in the right place. One week I said, I thought we were all born for such a time as this. We are the light bearers for the transition into a new world, hopefully one of peace. I've always been optimistic about the prophecies in the Bible. As much as the book of Revelation sounds like an apocalyptical end to our planet, I've always believed that prophecy was given to show us possibilities. We can surely wind up in a cataclysmic destruction of our planet Earth if we continue on our current path of hate and division. But we have free will, and prophecy can't change our ability to redirect our thinking to create a better outcome. May we all imagine a world where peace is our vision and everyone's best good is our priority. So that brings us to this question. When we are in the midst of a catastrophic event, are we in the right place? It's very hard to answer that with a straight up yes or no. Certainly from our human viewpoint, the battered spouse, the child with cancer, even the roadkill we pass on the road couldn't have been in the right place at the right time with that kind of an outcome. But I don't know enough about their spiritual path to even address that. So I can't suggest that they were in the right place at the right time. That is their spiritual path. But maybe there's another way for us to see it. Do these situations raise our awareness? Do they call us to action? Do these situations seem like something we can ignore because we have no control over them, so we just walk away? I imagine that all these situations I mentioned and many more may be brought to our attention so that we can find the spiritual gift they bear. Perhaps we can donate to a shelter, a hospital, or volunteer time to any situation. There is more happening always than meets the eye when we look closely. We all remember the story in the Old Testament of Joseph and his coat of many colors. It was a wonderful story, and we've got many interpretations of it. Joseph was born to Rachel and Jacob in the late years of their lives, and he was treated with great favor. Actually, Joseph was a pretty spoiled brat from the sound of it, and he kind of lorded it over his brothers. He had the coat Mama made him, and he didn't have a lot of humility in his early years. His older brothers were probably rightfully a little jealous of him, resented his preferential treatment. So while they took him with them to graze the flocks, the brothers threw him into an empty cistern and were going to leave him to die. Now, the eldest brother, Reuben, decided he would return and rescue him later. But when he returned, he discovered that the other brothers had sold Joseph to some Ishmaelite passersby for 20 shekels of silver, and those guys took him to Egypt. So what is Reuben to do? The brothers took Joseph's ornate coat and they shredded it. They poured animal blood on it so they could convince their father that he had been attacked by wild animals and killed. What a thing to tell your father for his favored son. Joseph was eventually sold to Potiphar, and Potiphar was one of Pharaoh's officials. So I'm going to fast forward. Joseph went on to serve Pharaoh as an advisor because his ability to interpret dreams was amazing. And one such dream told Joseph to advise Pharaoh to stockpile grain, that there was a famine coming. So Joseph and Pharaoh saved all the grain, and at this time all the countries around them were starving. and they would run out of product, and they were literally starving. So they would come to Pharaoh and ask for grain. Well, Joseph and his family were among those who returned to seek help from Pharaoh and his stockpiles. Now, after everything was revealed, in Genesis 50:20, it is said, "But as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring about that many people should be kept alive as they are today." That's quite an amazing turnaround for Joseph, who I'm not sure I wouldn't have said, "Oh, I recognize these guys. No grain." He understood the bigger picture. And I can't imagine that Joseph was thinking that when he was sitting in that well many years before. It took years of introspection, of spiritual growth, to reach the point of seeing the blessing in all that his brothers put him through. Was he in the right place? Well, history would say that he was, but I'm sure he didn't think so at the time. Speaking of bad family backgrounds, I was listening to a pop-up Instagram the other day, and this just blew me away. It struck me on a deep level. I'll just read it. Okay, it's in a short clip from Javon Cross, who described the purpose of our family background and how to look at it in a productive way. You can apply this to any relationship that has caused you pain or whatever has caused you pain, but this is what he said verbatim. "People think their family broke them. No, your family revealed you. You were born in that specific household under those specific people for a reason, not because they love you perfectly, but because this dysfunction would shape you. The silence, the pressure, the chaos, all of it will become the raw material for your transformation. But this won't hit right unless I show you what most people forget to look at. Your soul chose that environment to remember what it came here to evolve. The energy of that household, that dynamic, carried the exact frequency your growth required. And for everyone, that's going to look different. But that frequency wasn't accidental. It matched the very lessons that your soul agreed to master in this lifetime. And once you understand that, you no longer see your family as a flaw in the plan. They were the plan. Not because they were right, not because they were healthy, simply because your awareness could not develop without being exposed to what they embodied. It's not about becoming them. It's not about escaping them. It's about recognizing what the environment was meant to initiate in you, because every soul has an entry point. Yours just happened to look like a warning. And not everything that hurts is meant to be healed. Some things are meant to be understood. Wow. I had to replay that about 3 times to let it sink in. All the wounds from our past might seem unfair, loveless, detrimental, but that's because we haven't opened up to what the event was shaping in us. I've held a lot of harbored resentment for events that occurred in my first marriage. When I learned only a few years back that my first husband had died, my body literally let out an unconscious breath of tension I had been holding since 1970. I wasn't even aware of it. I thought I'd forgiven him. But my cells apparently hadn't forgotten. In retrospect, I realized that marriage was what gave me the strength to stand up to a challenge instead of caving in insecurity. It taught me to recognize manipulation and bullying so I wouldn't have to experience ever again. It shaped me in a way to deal with the world from my servant nature without being a doormat. Not everything that hurts is meant to be healed. Some things are meant to be understood. Dieter Uchtdorf of the Latter-day Saints says, "It's your reaction to adversity, not adversity itself, that determines how your life story will develop." So when we find ourselves in a place that seems not to be optimal, look deeper. Sit in the silence for a time and allow your soul to whisper wisdom. I often say we're here by divine appointment, and I truly believe that to the depths of my being. But sometimes it's very apparent that we're in the right place at the right time. We've all experienced synchronicities that affirm it. We run into just the right person who can help us solve a problem or find the doctor we need. We think of someone from our past and surprisingly get a text from them that day. The universe is always confirming God's intention for good in our life. The universe is always confirming God's intention for good in our life, but we have to pay attention. We can't get a new job or a better car by just sitting down and praying for it. We have to condition our mind to receive it. Gratitude, forgiveness, acceptance of our worthiness must come first, and then we have to take the steps required to create the result we want. Think about the many random thoughts that run through your mind on any given day. Sometimes we'll allow a random thought to create doubt or hesitation, and pretty soon we've built an entire scenario around it. Does anybody else do that but me? I could write dramas so easily. Take the car example. We want to buy that car, so we visualize being in the car dealership. But then we imagine our bank doesn't approve the loan. Where do we get the money? Oh my gosh. If my son hadn't needed that rent money, I'd be okay. If I'd gotten the promotion I deserved, I'd be all right. I think this is akin to being possessed by demons in the Bible, because we let them go and grow. Maybe we have a generally good outlook, but something in us is harboring a thought of, what if this goes wrong? After an event, don't you always want to say, why didn't I say that? We can build this drama around an imaginary thought and totally change the trajectory of our day and our outcome. Cast out the demons of negative thoughts and the players that jump on the stage to support them mentally. Cast them out. We are more than our thoughts or our consciousness or our flawed personalities. We are more than that. We are whole and divine, endowed with all the potential that was given to Jesus. Can I say that again? We are endowed with all the potential that was given to Jesus. We just aren't convinced of it yet. The book study that began this week with Sandra Vela on Practical Metaphysics by Eric Butterworth really explains Unity's basic metaphysical interpretation, and it gives us a lot of insight into this. When God created us in their image and likeness, we were each endowed with the qualities of the allness of God. The allness of God. Just as a drop of ocean water contains the same properties found in all the water in the ocean it came from, we are the individual many I ams of the great one I am. How cool is that? Do you believe it? If we are present anywhere on the planet, God is present because God is in us and we are in God. When our physical body is out of alignment, we aren't expressing wholeness of health or prosperity or peace in the world. God isn't diminished in us. Our wholeness is still within. We must recondition our mind and call out the Christ, realign our self-perception, see our power, wisdom, and health, as accessible and whole, not as diminished or compromised. Then discern our next reality with faith. The concept of God as omnipresent is totally counter to our linear brain capacity. If God is a sphere with no circumference, and we are each at the center of that sphere because we are in God, we too are unlimited. Can you visualize that? This circumference that has no end, and each of us are at the center of it. God is the center of it, and we are in God, and God is in us. So we are unlimited. Jesus got it. That's the difference. Jesus demonstrated it. He understood it to his core. He knew the Father and I are one, knew it to every cell in his being, to the point he could walk on water, the point that he could heal the sick and raise the dead. Miracles were his manifestation of that knowingness. God can't be any more present in the world than God is right now. We want God to show up. God's here. Don't block it. Feel it. Get in the center of it. God can't be any more present on the world, in the world, than he, she, it is right now. That will never change. The planet may change, our bodies may change, as we know very well. Everything around us may change. But the creative power that gives us free will is constant, unchangeable, always and everywhere present. Call it God, call it cosmic energy if you want to. The name really isn't important. Every religion has their own name for it. But we can't, because we can't reduce allness into one word. So when you hear another word for God, it's all the same. God is that power, that presence, that beingness that we all are. Everyone, including those we don't think have it. That's the hard part. The understanding of it and the experience of it is what we must open to in order to feel the wholeness and embody it within ourselves. I know people that do this a lot of the time, and you can feel their presence as you're around them because they just know God is in me and I'm in God, and I want to be there. Think on these things frequently, because as much as we can open ourselves to it is the limit to which we will experience it. I am created in the image and likeness of God. Keep that in your head. These things and greater things than these shall I do. Repeat that to yourself. Wherever I am, God is. And that is always the right place to be. Thank you.